All right, let's talk some hoops. Big game that just happened. We just finished game 4 of the Western Conference matchup between the Clippers and the Mavericks. Clippers just tied the series up at 2 apiece, heading back to Los Angeles. I got a lot of notes, a lot of stuff to go over. The first thing that I want to go over is this is one of the weirdest series I've ever experienced. Ever. This is such a crazy back and forth series. There's no real rhyme or reason to any of the games. It seems like every quarter it's like 2 different teams that are playing each other. There are such massive shifts in the storylines game to game. Game 1 completely different than game 2 and game 3 and game 4. Here are what I think the reasons are that this series is so crazy and bizarre. We've seen 30-point leads get blown, 20-point leads get blown. We've seen close games, blowouts. It's a crazy series. And the reasons that I think is, number 1, supreme offensive talent met with supreme defensive adjustment. Both teams have very high octane offensive skill. There's 7 basically for sure first ballot Hall of Famers in this series alone. Six first ballot Hall of Famers in this series alone. And so the scoring and the shot making ability throughout the series has been incredible, but the technical defensive adjustment to combat those offensive shot making abilities has been incredible as well. Number 2 reason I think this series is so crazy is the depth, specifically depth in defensive adjustment positions in the game. So for the Mavericks, DJJ, Dante Exum, Derek Lively, Maxey, Gafford, PJ Washington, and even Josh Green. There are so many, they have such depth in the people that they can adjust defensively to great scoring ability, right? For the Clippers, T-Man, Amir Coffey, Russ, and what? And Paul George and PG. All of those players at the positions that defensive adjustment is required, there is great depth. So to guard the Clippers, you need wing defenders, right? What do the Mavs have depth in? They have depth in wing defenders. Same thing the other way. The Mavericks kill you on the perimeter with Luka and Kyrie. The Clippers have great defensive adjustments for both of those players, right? Especially in the depth category. So they got a lot of depth to deal with those players, right? Number 3 is coaching. Coaching in this series is incredible. Jason Kidd and Tyrone Lue have been doing a great job, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in the segment. They've done a great job of adjusting, not even just game to game, but quarter by quarter. The coaching in this series is a top tier, at the top tier. Number 4 reason I think this series is insane is they are both, the Mavericks and the Clippers are both momentum dependent teams. So both teams perform extremely high when momentum is on their side, and both teams perform extremely low when momentum is not on their side. You can see that in the massive runs and shifts of pace and tempo in these games. It's unlike any other playoff series that's happening right now. Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic get hot in a way that I've never seen anybody get hot, and their role players get cold in a way that I've never seen anybody get cold. Same thing with the Clippers. It's back and forth because these teams depend and rely on momentum at a high level. All right, let's get specific. I want to talk about individuals that have played this game from both teams. But first, I want to start with the officiating. I could talk about plays that I, as a Clipper fan, could point out and be like, what are we doing with the officiating? That was clearly a foul. I'm not going to do all that. I'm sure that there are a lot of calls that went our way that the Mavericks fans are upset about and that I am blinded to. as a Clippers fan, so I'm not going to get into that bias. The one thing I will say about the officiating, though, is I feel like the officials need to make a decision in this series of how physical they are going to allow this series to be. They have been confusing on what they're going to allow and what they're not going to allow, the physicality level that they're going to allow. That's all I ask, because I know as a fan I'm biased and I can't really say what fouls are right and what fouls are not right. What I do ask, what I need to see from the officials is I think that they are doing a poor job of solidifying what physicality level they're going to allow. And that's it. I'm not going to say anything more on that topic. Dallas. Let's talk about Dallas. Kyrie Irving. My goodness. Kyrie Irving. This is from a pure hooper standpoint. We're not talking about statistics. We're not talking about EFGs and like impact on the game, true shooting. We're not going to talk about any of that. We're just talking about we're in the playground and we're playing basketball and we're hooping. This might be the best pure hooper I have ever witnessed. His shot-making ability was insane tonight. The stuff that I saw him make at such a high level of efficiency was incredible. I think he turned the ball over 7 times, I believe. But he dropped 40. Like this guy is just big time. He was clearly the best player on the floor tonight. So let's get that out of the way. Kyrie Irving is an absolute monster, and to do this at this stage of his career with that level of efficiency and athleticism is just bonkers. Okay. All right, Luka Doncic. Again, poor shooting display by him. He shot, I think, 30% from the field or something like that. He didn't shoot the ball well, and he's not really playing particularly great offensively. But I want to talk about one thing with Luka that I noticed in this game is his passing timing. So what Luka does when he drives into the paint and he gets the step on his man, he shields them and uses his physicality and slows the tempo down, and he's patient with it. But when he does his kick out, his cross-court kick out to the shooters, the timing that he does those passes in is second to none. It was incredible to watch and extremely frustrating as someone who doesn't want the Dallas Mavericks shooting open threes. When he gets in the paint, he's forcing the secondary and the tertiary rotators to make decisions. So the initial rotator to come and cover Luka on the drive, he is controlling their pace and making them make decisions. And then the tertiary rotator, who's supposed to come from the baseline and recover to get the person who just helped off the third shooter in the rotation, that is who Luka is playing with. So that tertiary defender, where Luka is waiting in the middle and he's waiting for that guy to make a decision. Are you going to go in complete tertiary help defense, or are you going to stay just in case Luka does something and protect the paint? He did a massively good job at waiting on those, and he got Maxi Kleber, PJ Washington, Dante Exum. He got them a lot of open shots tonight because of that. That is huge. Luka in foul trouble was huge for us this game. I'm going to go ahead and give him the benefit of the doubt and say that him being in foul trouble was the reason that he wasn't playing great defense. He's been playing great defense all series. He was not great defensively today. And I'm going to chalk that up to him being in foul trouble. I don't think he was lazy or just not a good defender. I think it was the foul trouble that got him into that trouble. But I will say that he did take a bigger step back defensively than I would have expected him to take being in foul trouble. I would have expected him to put pressure on the refs to make those calls and to still play aggressive. But towards the end of the game, he allowed James Harden to pin him and go downhill. He stayed on his hip and didn't overextend his defense because of the foul trouble. James Harden going downhill and playing in space in the key area is bad news for everybody. So I was disappointed with Luka's defense. I was happy about it, but I didn't think he should have taken a step back as much as he did. But again, triple-double, he impacted the game for sure. All right, now let's talk about the Clippers. And let's go over the one topic that I really do not want to talk about. But I have to be objective, and I have to handle this analysis with integrity. So, Russell Westbrook, you need to be better. Russell Westbrook, you are playing like trash. You are a massive offensive liability right now. You are taking bad shots and missing them even worse. You are turning the ball over. And right now, because of what you're doing on the defensive end, it's passable, but you need to be better. I will say this, though, and I'm really trying not to be biased, I promise. But I do have to share the facts. Russell Westbrook defensively is holding the Mavs stars to 28% shooting. He's also holding the others when he's guarding them. When he is their primary defender, he's holding them to less than 28%. Statistically, we are a better team with him on the court. Don't argue with me, argue with the numbers. Russell Westbrook is plus 22 for the series, which is the highest on our team. But he has to be better. I'm not saying he has been a good player for our team by any means. But the way that he is playing, that like we're scoring when he's in the game. That's just the key. But he needs to be better as an individual. He's not playing well. And the fact that we are winning when he's on the floor with him playing this poorly is precisely the reason it is so important for him to get better. This is not sustainable throughout the course of the series. He needs to be better. That's Russ out of the way. Next player, James Harden and Paul George showed up. This is what I've been waiting for, a master game from both of them. James Harden and Paul George shot 17 and 19 field goal attempts respectively, compared to 13 and 11 field goal attempts in Game 3. 17 and 19, still a little bit low for my taste. Third quarter, they both scored 0 points, which helped the Mavs come back. I think they still need to stay aggressive shooting the ball and keep shooting even more than they shot today. But they both shot above 50%. They both controlled the pace of the game. They both scored virtually at will. Paul George in the first half, James Harden in the second half. They opened up with the mentality that we need to win, and then they lagged off, whatever it was, fatigue, Mavs defense, whatever you want to credit that to. Let the Mavs come back, and then they ended with a mentality that we need to win the series as well. Shot-making ability from both in very difficult moments was off the charts. It was huge. So not just their shot-making ability, we've been knowing this, but their shot-making ability in the moments that matter most is not what we know from James Harden, and it's not what we know from Paul George. And they did that tonight. This one play that I want to point out, it was an out-of-timeout play. Ty Lue drew up that was beautiful. The Mavs had just taken a 1-point lead for the first time since they were up 8-7. They went up 105 to 104, and Ty Lue drew up an out-of-timeout play. He loaded the strong side, had Paul George seal his defender on the lower block, weak side, loaded up one side, strong side, 4 Clipper players, and cleared out one side for Paul George. James Harden threw a cross-court pass over to him. Beautiful play, but it was broken up, whether the pass was off, whatever it was. Broken up play, and Paul George made a ridiculous shot that I believe saved the game. The next player I want to talk about is Norman Powell. This will be quick. Just shoot more. Just shoot more, Norman Powell. You were great tonight, 4 of 8, 50% shooting. The problem is you're 4 for 8. I need Norm to shoot the ball more. He made a big floater in the second half, or in the fourth quarter when the Mavs were going on a run. He's the third scorer that we're going to need moving forward in this series. It looks like Kawhi is going to stay on the bench. And James and Paul are playing the way they're playing, but we talked about the third quarter where they both scored 0 points. This is where Norman Powell needs to step up. James and Paul are great players, but they're getting older. Fatigue is setting in. Mavs are hyper-focused on them, and it's on Norman Powell to be the third scorer to make the Mavs pay for focusing on James and Paul George. He needs to shoot more. Last player who I think is the unsung hero of this entire series, who needs to be talked about more, is Terrence Mann. He's been very consistent in his role all 4 games, even their blowout loss. He played a heck of a game. He's the only player apart from Russ who is holding the 2 stars to a lower field goal percentage when he is their primary defender. He's been playing great defensively. He's been playing great on the offensive boards and on the defensive boards. He is patient when he's supposed to be. The separation that this Clippers team is going to experience in the playoffs is Terrence Mann's shot-making ability. When Terrence Mann is making that baseline 3, he's getting like 4 open looks from the baseline 3 every game. If he's making those shots, signed, sealed, delivered. Let's move on. Terrence Mann needs to make those shots, but everything else he's doing on the court, he has been incredible. I love this guy. He's been passing well. He's been running the floor well. His defensive intensity is right up there with the best of them. He just needs to make some shots. So, coaching adjustments is the last thing I want to talk about. Jason Kidd kept his plan today in attacking James Harden and pick and roll action. I think James Harden did a better job today than he has done in the past 3 games. And I think the Clippers offsetted that well. So when he was getting attacked and beat in the on the defensive end, we were scoring well in the first half. Another thing Kidd is doing that I saw a little bit differently this game, I don't know if it's an adjustment that he made, but his off-ball screens for Kyrie to get Kyrie running towards the ball. That wasn't something that I saw in the past 3 games, but Kyrie has been doing a lot of off-ball movement so that he can catch the ball in an attack standpoint where he has the open floor to maneuver. And obviously it worked. The guy dropped 40 on us. Ty Lue, I'm not a fan of Ty Lue's rotations, but what do I know, right? I think Ty Lue made great adjustments today in limiting the lob threat for Dallas. They had 7 lobs that led to dunks in game 3. Today, I don't know if I remember one. They might have had 1 or 2. But he made a great secondary rotation adjustment where our secondary rotation was pushing the bigs further out on their secondary rotation, so picking them up higher instead of sagging off to give them the run in to lobs, which I think was big for Ty Lue, because when Dallas's bigs are working, that's bad news for us. Today, Gafford, Lively, and Maxey played well, but Lively and Gafford, I think we neutralized very well. And so that adjustment was key. So those 2 coaching adjustments were very fun to watch. And this chess match is really cool because the chess matches, the coaches' adjustments in the chess match are impactful, but there's so much star power on the floor in every game of this series that it's really just who's going to make shots and who's gonna like be tough enough to move on, you know. This game came down to shot making ability, and I think LA outlasted Dallas in that category today. But this is how good and talented Dallas is that still has me scared. We were up 30 and I was still terrified. They are still dangerous down 30, which is crazy. The offensive onslaught that they can put on is unbelievable. But we pulled it off. Huge game from James Harden. He is incredible, and I hope he stays this way. He's been the only one that has showed up all 4 games. But now, it is a best-of-3 series. We stole home court back without Kawhi. We are going to need our best players to win or lose, but do that shooting the ball. If we lose, that's fine, as long as we lose shooting our shots. Like, if we win or lose, we want to win or lose punching, throwing fists, and shooting the ball. That's what I want to see from this Clippers team. Let's let it fly. Shoot the ball, all right? I don't want to lose with us, like, shelling in on ourselves and not putting up shots. But Game 5 is on Wednesday. Best-of-3 series. 2 more clips. 2 more. Let's go.